Alright, so round two. This hand is kind of awkward, and this is what Vault of the Archangel. This is the downside of it. So Fetid Heath needs a colored source to activate. We don't have a colored source, we have a Vault of the Archangel. So if that vault were any colored source, then this hand I think would be a keep, because we could, even if it was a white source like a plains or something, then we couldn't cast anything turn one, but on turn two we could Inquisition and Fatal Push, and then we'd have any other land would be able to get things going with our Gideon of the Trials and stuff like that. But as it stands, I think it's too risky. We're on the play, so if we just lead with like Fetid Heath, and then turn two, don't peel a land, we just play Vault, and then turn three, if we don't have a land, then it's just like, I don't know. It just felt like it was not quite a keep. This hand is okay. We're looking to find more lands. We don't have the early interaction, that's bottoming. Don't need another Wrath. We just need to basically stay alive, I think, with this hand, and hopefully play against a creature deck. We found a Field of Ruin, that's good. Opponent playing black-red, looks like could be Hollow One, yep. So you have Flamewake Phoenix in the graveyard, and they play a Hollow One in turn two. Not bad. Play Burning Inquiry. Alright, so let's see what's going on here. They Burning Inquiry, we discarded our Lingering Souls. Or no, wait, we cast our Lingering Souls. We discarded Gideon Allies Zendikar, Gideon Jura, and Marsh Flats. And now we have Wrath Damnation in hand, and we have Inquisition. So basically, we want to preserve our life total. I'm thinking my plan is to cast a Wrath at ASAP, and their plan is to try to kill us before we can get to that point. Well, we only have one colored source so far because we have Field of Ruin and a Vault. What our plan likely is next turn is to sacrifice the Field of Ruin to get a black source and Inquisition them, and then whenever we draw any other source, we can Damnation. So we're just going to try to, we're not trying to kill the Phoenix because they'll just bring it back the following turn. So we're just trying to absorb damage by chumping the 4/4. We did draw Field of Ruin, so which is interesting enough that it's another colorless source, but it means that we don't need to break first. We looked at their hand to make sure, see what they have. We took one of their two Flamewake Phoenixes. They just had 3 lands and a Phoenix, or 2 Phoenixes. So we took one of the 2 Phoenixes, and now we Field of Ruin them. So now that Phoenix is going to come back, or they're going to cast the other Phoenix in hand. So they can only get one of the two, likely getting the one back from the graveyard. And then we're going to Wrath the following turn, and then they're going to play Phoenix from their hand. And we can either play Gideon or Lingering Souls, and then it'll just be whether their top of the deck is better than our top of our deck. So they play Goblin Lore, which is a pretty good draw. And they discarded Adept and some of the lands. So now they get to get the Phoenix back. They have fresh new cards in hand. We chump block, we play our land, and we Wrath. Faithless Looting, putting 2 Bloodghasts in the yard, playing a land, getting the Bloodghasts back. Don't have haste because they're at 14. Playing the Phoenix from their hand, putting us down to 12. What do we do here? We Field of Ruin them, which they're out of basics now because they had Mountain in their graveyard, Mountain, Swamp in play, and a lot of Hollowwood decks only play 4 or 5 basics. This one plays 4 unless they have one in hand. And so yeah, we start Field of Ruining them just as land destruction, and also because we can cast our card anyway. We cast Damnation. So now, still if they play a land, they get their Bloodghast back, which they do. It's kind of annoying. And they play Phoenix out of their hand. So now we play our Gideon, make a 2/2, This game's looking close, and we flash back Lingering Souls. So now it's kind of like our boards look relatively even, except we have a Gideon, but then their Bloodghast can come back. So it's a pretty close game at this point. Flashback Faithless Looting. Crackland, get back the Bloodghast they just discarded. They also discarded a Street Wraith, though. They discarded land Street Wraith. So their hand is like two good cards, two cards that are better than Street Wraith. So I'm not too optimistic about this game at this point. So they send everyone at us. So let's see how we block here. So what I did was I just blocked one Bloodghast and took the rest and went to 4. So my thinking is I get to untap and use Vault of the Archangel to good effect. See what we're able to do with Vault. So I wanted to not go into burn range. So if they kept 2 cards in hand over Street Wraith, I'm thinking there's a very reasonable chance that one of them's a Lightning Bolt. And so I don't want to just take it all and go to 2, because then I just die to a Lightning Bolt. But I want to keep as many creatures on the board as possible for a Vault of the Archangel, because I felt like that's my best way to win this game. So the opponent's at 10, so if we can get a big attack in, and that life we gain from our big attack basically is countered by their counter attack, and then we have lethal on board, or it forces them to attack Gideon, and it gives us a 2-turn buffer to draw something. So that was my thinking as to why only to block a Spirit on a Bloodghast. And also, if they kept a land in hand, let's say they kept Bolt land or whatever, then if we just tried to block all the Bloodghasts and they play land to get them all back, whereas if we block one, then it's like, well, do I play the land to get the one Bloodghast back? Well, probably, and then we can make an all-out block next time. So let's see what we do here. They did keep a land to get the Bloodghast back. We drew Day of Judgment, which is good. So we Inquisition them first to see, what is it? What do you have in hand? Maybe it's a Goblin Lore. Maybe it's I don't know, something relevant. And I figured there's a good chance it's a Bolt because they kept it over Street Wraith. And if they kept land and another spell, there's not a lot they would keep over Street Wraith, I guess, and not cast. So I Inquisition them. They bolt my creature in response, which was a smart decision on their part. We still have the mana where we could use Vault to gain 6 life, which would put us at 10. Then they can only attack us back for 8. And we put them to 4 and we'd be at 10. Or we could Day of Judgment and attack for 5, puts them down to 5. So this is actually a pretty close play. I'm sorry, it's not a close play because they have the fetch land in play. And if we, say, Wrathed them and attacked for 5, then they would just crack the fetch, get a land, and all 3 Bloodghasts come back and they attack us for 6 and we're dead. Okay? So we have to Vault this turn. So we have to make Gideon a creature and attack, gain life, so that we're not dead on board and they're forced to basically draw something to beat us. So that's what we do. We just attack with Gideon because I figure okay, so here's basically the reasoning for attacking with just Gideon. They're at 10, so dealing them 6 instead of 5 isn't super relevant. And also because their crackback is going to be largely so they can't just attack us. Like their only creature that can block is Flamewake Phoenix, and so they need to attack Gideon to death. Otherwise, they have to chump block Gideon with Phoenix, which we have the Wrath. We just Wrath and attack with Gideon, and they're dead. So they basically, since Bloodghast can't block, they're going to have to attack Gideon instead of us, because they can only deal us 8 or at 9. And so by having to attack Gideon, now if we leave back a blocker, it means we basically gain even more life, because now instead of just sending 5 damage at Gideon, or I guess in this case 6 damage at Gideon, they have to send all 8 at Gideon, because we can block one. So we're basically, instead of gaining 2 life, we're gaining, or instead of gaining 1 life from the attack, from the lifelink, we're gaining 2 life because they have to send an extra 2 damage attacker at Gideon. And in addition to all this, this is just all basically to kill Gideon. They have to send everyone at Gideon just to kill Gideon. And then basically anything that we can draw puts us in good shape. So they flashback Faithless Looting. And they discard Fatal Push Lightning Bolt. So I'm like, well, like Lightning Bolt is literally lethal, so we're dead, and they just kept a Lightning Bolt 100%. That's the only card that makes sense here. It's like, all right, well, valiant effort. They attack with everyone at us. We block 1, take 6, go to 3, and they bolt us and kill us. Nothing we could have done. If we attacked with the Spirit to gain life, we'd be at 10. They attack us for 8, down to 2, and they bolt us, and we're dead. So, yeah, by discarding Bolt, and Bolt is lethal, that means 100% the card in their hand is Lightning Bolt. Well, let's play it out anyway. Show us Lightning Bolt. All right, attack everyone at us. All right, block, whatever, we go to 3. What? What? They kept Hollow One instead of Bolt? Bolt is lethal. What are they doing? All right, well, now I can Day of Judgment, then activate Gideon and attack. So that was a pretty bad punt on the opponent's part there. But that's the thing. Like once you can rationally, this is kind of a lesson to learn here. You can deduce what the only card that makes sense. You know, if they discard a card that's lethal, it's Lightning Bolt, then that means the only card that makes sense is another lethal card. But the opponent could have just made a mistake. Players make mistakes all the time. Even the best players in the world make mistakes. And so like we didn't have any decisions really to make in that spot, so it didn't really matter as far as like, you know, trying to play differently. But I deduced that we are dead because they discarded a lethal card, but we in fact were not dead because they made a mistake and kept a non-lethal card instead. So then our Day of Judgment was lethal. So that was a pretty good game. It came down to them top decking and then throwing it away, but it was a good game nonetheless. A lot of interaction. We had to make that line with the Vault of the Archangel to give ourselves the chance, which was not a super obvious line. All right, so now we get to sideboard. So we sideboarded in 2 Rest in Peace, 1 Cage, and 3 Surgicals. We boarded out 2 Thoughtseize, 1 Collective Brutality, 2 Gideon of the Trials, and 1 Liliana. So we wanted to bring in all the graveyard hate we could because we're a deck filled with like wrath effects. So I figure as long as we can keep the graveyard in check, it's the recurring creatures that are the problem, like the Bloodghasts and the Phoenixes that we need to get rid of out of the graveyard. We can wipe the board multiple times, no problem. So that's why we brought in all of these effects, the graveyard effects. And so we drew a hand that has 3 lands, removal spell, Rest in Peace, a little bit of a nombo with Lingering Souls and Rest in Peace, but that's way more effective against the opponent. So Rest in Peace obviously shuts the opponent's deck down considerably. And so then Lingering Souls trading with like a Phoenix or 2 Bloodghasts is more than fine because once they're gone, they're gone. So Lingering Souls is still better than the cards we boarded out. So we're on the draw. They cycle Street Wraith, Crack, Adept, all right. Burning Inquiry, don't hit a Rest in Peace, don't hit a Rest in Peace. We path in response anyway because we're going to take 4 and we don't want to take 4. Even though it decreases our chances of keeping Rest in Peace. We keep it though, and Lingering Souls goes to the graveyard. So hold on, let's pause it here. Let's look at what just got exiled. So we had a decision. We could have flashback Lingering Souls that turn instead of casting Rest in Peace. But my thinking is that I don't want to give them that turn to resolve their Gurmag Angler and get back their Bloodghast. So they're going to play a land, get Bloodghast back, and then they're going to, you know, if they have another Gurmag Angler in hand or something, they're going to cast it by delving away all their cards. So I figured those 2 spirit tokens, I'll just, okay, whatever, you're done, you're out. I'm going to forfeit that that play because I think it's more important to get the rest in peace on the battlefield now. I think that was definitely the right decision. So now they have to play on hard mode. They have to beat us without a graveyard. So they have Hollow One, which is a good start. Now they have Phoenix, which that's 6. We have to draw something here. We do, we draw a land. So we can Damnation. Now they collected Brutality, us take our Settle, and we're at 5, because they drained us for 2. And discarding a Gurmag Angler, which is probably not coming out anytime soon without a graveyard. So they're down to 1 card in hand. Now we're on the plan of let's start pressuring the opponent. So let's make a 2/2 in the next turn. We can activate Vault and gain some life and basically put the game out of reach. And the opponent draws and concedes because they see what's coming. So yeah, that was a game that was the key decision was turn 2. Do we play the Rest in Peace or the Lingering Souls? It's pretty obvious, I think. Level 0, like the play that you make, it's like you bring in the Rest in Peace because this is a deck that's really hurt by Rest in Peace. They just filled up their graveyard. They have a Bloodghast. They're a deck with Gurmag Anglers. Just jam the Rest in Peace. It's the obvious play. Why are you even talking about this, Craig? But I see a lot of people, myself included, on a lot of occasions, that you outthink yourself. You go, do I really need to cast the Rest in Peace this turn? Like, what could really go wrong? Like, how bad can I get punished? I think I'm going to just take this extra value play and flashback my Lingering Souls first because I got lucky and discarded it off of the Burning Inquiry. Well, I don't just want to like throw away that good luck I just had. I want to take advantage of it. No, that's the wrong thinking. You just need to jam the Rest in Peace. That's the best value play. Forfeit your Lingering Souls. Who cares? You need to jam Rest in Peace. That was the biggest decision I think to make this game. Um, yeah, so again, game 1, we put them in a position where they had to top deck. They did top deck and they threw it away, and we won. But putting them in that position against triple Bloodghast draw, which is really good against us game 1, because most of our effects destroy creatures and they just keep coming back. So we actually had to win through a very difficult draw from the opponent that game. And then this game was all about just jam the Rest in Peace. When you draw the graveyard, hey, just play it. And then we just played Gideon and won from there with Gideon. But yeah, so this matchup, it's very reasonable, especially post board. We have the tools to beat them. This is a deck that I'm not really afraid to play in tournaments, even though, of course, it's going to have some draws where it just beats anyone.